Listening to the ambulance go by. So many ambulances in this neighborhood. Just constantly hear that sound out my door. I have the terrace doors open, so I can really hear it. And I wanted to film this without stopping anyway. And so no makeup, no lipstick, no brush. just thinking about when my life changed. It's changed so many times. But I have to say it went through an overhaul. My inner life. And it was the time when I was teaching. When I was teaching in the high school and in the middle school and the high school, and most of the kids were what they call at risk. And there's for good reason they call them at risk. A lot of them are in and out of foster care or living in group homes and these sorts of things. They might have records already. So at risk for not graduating, at risk for incarceration. So, labeled that. But it was at that time that I saw the world differently. I saw the power of influence, especially my own. I think that when I started to work with the children and being a new educator, on my tippy toes of thinking I'm going to heal the world, I had it banked on, being cursed out daily and my heart rate, having high blood pressure on a daily basis and feeling so much anger, so much rage toward children for cursing me out on a daily basis. And I was not in the mindset of reality. I was in the mindset of my dream. And my dream was to come in as a fairy and, heal the world. But I hadn't really thought about the children. I was just thinking about myself. So my reaction was very, very narcissistic. Me, I, and you, unruly children. Until I started to think about, the best way to reach the children was to understand them. Not to feel sorry for them and not to, swing the pendulum and feel sorry for them and not to swing the pendulum and can't, treat them poorly, like you can't stand them, but to get right in the middle and understand them. And, that's not that hard to do because we're not that different. I don't care about age. To tell you the truth, I know people in their 60s and 70s. We all have the same emotions. Difficult situations impact us on different levels. We're all on a spectrum for how we feel things. But, when situations are harsh and when you might be abandoned or neglected, or you always take that on kind of negatively. So when I was able to understand them, I was able to love them. And I have to say that the greatest lesson, I hate to use these words because I sound like I'm preaching, but for me, I guess the greatest point of improvement in my life was realizing how similar we are and how we all have the same needs to be protected and secure and loved and seen and heard. And when those things backfire, when we're not able to meet those needs, we all act up. So children, adults, older people, we all act badly. We act up. And so to say that I grew to love them sounds cliche, but I think what I'm saying in real truth is that I grew to see myself in them. So loving them meant that I was loving parts of myself that had gone unseen also. And I feel like it was the greatest change in my life because it made me a better person in the world. It actually made me pay attention more. It made me see that there are pockets and crevices and and small tunnels and little hidden spaces of people who have great pain. You know, and when we're in a regular safe sort of life, these things happen in movies, right? We see great pain, I guess we could call it that. It's for 2 hours. But for the most part, you know, we see the Cinderella fantasies and the happy endings. So when you take the lid off and you look at places that where people have great and deep pain, you know, that's when you can actually you look into the mirror of yourself. And this is where you are faced with answering the question of what kind of person you are. In situations where you have a relationship with someone who's in great pain, how do you respond to that? Do you respond or do you run? Do you respond to that with care or do you fight? Do you respond by just listening and shutting up? Or do you just bust? And, you know, I didn't respond the greatest ways a lot of the times until I did. And when I did, it taught me it gave me the greatest movement forward in, I think, being a better human. So